Populism is not is value loaded, but recently it's been very popular. It means in the last maybe 5-7 years, right, is a sort of the global attitude, so the global rise of the populist movements. First of all, we have to make a distinction between the, let's say, social science type of use of the concept of populism and political use of the concept of populism. I don't want to talk about the political use. Why? Because usually it's used as a sort of the insult, political insult. If we call, oh, this is a populist party, which means it's a not good party, it's just a populist party, right? Which means it's not a proper program. Now, in the social sciences, use of concept of populism in social sciences is again not easy, right? There is no agreement within scholars, basically, how to define this, what constitutes the populism. It seems to me that we have to make another distinction, the distinction of the populist aspiring to power and the populist in power, right? So it means in some countries, the so-called populist parties, they won elections and they formed the government, so they started to introduce the populist policies. But in the majority of countries, they are sort of aspiring to power. It means growing populist movements, which, like, let's say, Italy or Spain, which formulate a program. And then the next distinction is between the leftist populism and rightist populism. What unifies them, basically, is a problem of the exclusion, right? Exclusion. What I want to stress is that from the epistemological point of view, even, we disagree about what constitutes populism, but there is a tendency, especially within the liberal circles, to dismiss populism as a sort of the not nice and not interesting social phenomenon, which I disagree totally. Why? Because populists try to express the experiences of social groups. It means social groups which are excluded from the mainstream. And also social groups which experience, let's say, violence in society. But now what is interesting, it seems to me, is such issue that the populism is not a one-dimensional phenomenon, but the populism is, like my colleagues call it, chameleon type of phenomenon, which means the context in which the populists function plays the most important role. What is the substance of the local populism, right? So there will be different, let's say, substance of populism in Brazil and different in Poland, for instance, right? Why? Because the concept and the issues, the context and the issues are different. So that's one thing. Now we could ask the question, why is such growing popularity of the populist movements, right? So we've got let's say, left populist movement, Podemos in Spain. We've got Syriza, right, in also left populist movement in Greece. But we've got a right, like, let's say, in Italy. Why is this growing? In the Philippines, in Brazil, why is this growing movement? And probably one explanation that is coming to my mind is that in the contemporary world, all traditional division between left and right disappear, which means people nowadays live in the sort of the political vacuum, like free political nomads, right? Therefore, they shift. They are not connected anymore with the old type of the ideological parties, left or right, which defended their interest, but they move freely. Therefore, is a growing support to the populist movements by the people who find that all other traditional parties don't represent their interest. Means in relation to Poland, but not only Poland, it's basically all the so-called Central Eastern post-communist countries, right? I don't want to say anything about Hungary because I don't know too much about Hungary. But if you look from the from the Baltic states going down, let's say, to Croatia, that in all of these countries, there are some sort of the growing populist movements. Recently in Slovakia, as you know, the Populist Party received the biggest number of votes. But I am not sure, really, I'm not convinced that we could call them populist movements. They maybe are similar to the populist movement. So let's do this. If we agree that the three elements are necessary, the presence of three elements are necessary to call this movement, let's say, populist. Anti-elitism, right? And the second is sort of the moral superiority of the people, right? And the third one, anti-pluralistic attitudes. So if you look at the populists in power now, it means in Poland, I think about Poland, and the Law and Justice parties in power, they are not anti-elitist. They are against the peculiar elite, but not all elites whatsoever. In opposite even, they want to create their own elites. They are not anti-pluralists, but they want to contain pluralism, which means to, not to allow growing sort of the distribution of the opinion and the disintegration of some elements of unity, but they are not anti-pluralistic. So only one element, this superiority of the people, citizens which agree with us, is present out of three, right? So it seems to me that we can't say with 100% conviction that it is a populist movement in power. Another issue is, it seems to me, is when the liberal side is criticizing the party in power for the populist economical policies. That's, maybe they are right, maybe they are wrong. I am not an economist, but it seems to me that if we look from the sociological point of view on the consequences of this distribution of money, as they say, called 500 plus for children and so on, that work and really put a lot of people, above the poverty level. Which means after the collapse of communism in all of those countries, including former DDR even, right, which was in the best position because of the existence of West Germany and Deutschmark at the time, or Euro. No, Deutschmark probably at the time still. It means what was there is total economical collapse. One. But then at the same time, because of the economical collapse, because of the economical reason, exclusion of huge proportion of society from any type of the participation in the public life. Then also economical exclusion. Now is, let's say, exclusion from the internet, from all those, technologies. So these parties tried or implement policies to nivellate this exclusion, to bring in, what does it mean from the point of view of democracy now? Well, they are bringing in people to the participation in the public sphere. Okay, opposition will say they buy these people, they corrupt them to vote for them. For sure, partly they are right. Probably there was a motive. But if we look from the outcome of that is the increase of the participation. And then those people started to express their voices. They participate, they vote, and they voted to support that type of the policies. So it seems to me that paradoxically, from the point of view of the participatory democracy, then the so-called populist movement, they include people, more people participate. But what is missing now is we've got also concept of the deliberative democracy. Deliberation went down, which means the type of the public discourse of the issue. If you increase participation, then immediately is decrease in the quality of deliberation.